back to the Indoorfins, y'all. Watch the NBA. Not really. There's no NBA games on right now that we're watching, but we are live.
We are live and in chives. I don't know. That's onion and chives.
Onion and chives. We've had dip. We've had dip today. That's literally all we've eaten is just onion and chive dip. Please send money to your favorite local podcasters. They are surviving on dip. We have cannibalized our partners. The ship is sinking. Actually, don't do that.
Dips and chips.
Don't do any of that. You don't. Well, I mean, actually, you could send us money, but no, we haven't actually cannibalized anybody. Our partners at home. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Anyway,
welcome to the Indoorfins.
Welcome to the Indoorfins. I'm Ethan.
I'm Tuesday. Hey guys.
This is the show.
This is our show. Today, we're going to be talking NBA. We're going to see if we can start predicting some of the things that are going to happen in the Eastern Conference. It's a long time before the start of the season. I just realized the season in the NBA don't even kick off till like October. So yeah. I'm not sticking necessarily to anything that I say today, but it's very easy to see who's going to be leading and who won't be by the time All-Star break comes around.
Right.
We're in the deep stretch of the Major League Baseball season. Big trade. Cubs are back. If you necessarily to anything that I say today, but it's very easy to see who's going to be leading and who won't be by the time All-Star break comes around.
Right.
We're in the deep stretch of the Major League Baseball season. Big trade. Cubs are back. If you doubted the Cubs and their starting rotation, you won't anymore. And got a little bit of football, got a little bit of American football, got a little bit of European football. European football being played here in America right now. The ICC Cup is happening.
The ICC Cup?
International Continental
Cup.
Or
Right.
Be it. I don't know. You know what? It's just like any other preseason. It's not that big of a deal. You're watching guys who are trying to get in shape. You're watching a bunch of coaches trying to see if they've got any depth at the youth level, so they're playing a lot of kids. You're seeing a lot of weird jersey numbers that you just don't actually see once you get to the regular season. A lot of good goals though. A lot of teams are taking steps in the right direction, and some teams are not. And we'll get into that. But right now, the first thing that we're going to bring up was Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry.
Mike Lowry's little brother. Kyle Lowry is very excited. He's so excited to be
here.
So excited to be
with
a Raptor.
Us today.
That when they went to go interview him this week for USA Basketball, the very first question they asked him is, "Hey, how do you feel about how do you feel about your best friend being traded off of your team?" I'm here for USA Basketball. It's been a great week for USA Basketball. I'm really enjoying USA Basketball. I'm not here to talk about the Raptors.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
I know, right? I'm here so I won't get fined. Thank you. Thank you, Marshawn. That was like the best press conference of all time. Marshawn's like, "Look, y'all keep taking my money. I'm here so that y'all don't take my money, but that don't mean I gotta actually talk to any of y'all, answer any of y'all questions. But in all seriousness, it actually makes me pretty upset because everybody's like, "Oh man, Kyle, like your best friend's gone, and you got this dude on your team that clearly doesn't even want to play. How does that make you feel? How do you think it would make Ethan? For real, if I quit the podcast, yeah." I quit the podcast and you get somebody who just doesn't know what's going on, doesn't like sports, doesn't want to talk about any of this stuff, how would you feel?
Right pissed off.
Exactly. So for everybody to be like, "Hey, Kyle, how do you feel that you're going to have to play with this dude who doesn't want to be on your team and he's the replacement for literally one of the best friends you've ever made in your entire life?" I'm pissed off, dude. Don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Don't like any of you guys. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Exactly.
I'd be righteously upset. there'd be so many different emotions, but, like, who do you take it out on? Like, you signed a contract, you know what I mean? Like, you are contracted to play for the team, right? You're not in control of what the team does with everybody else around you. You can't control who your teammates are. But for them to be like, yeah, your best friend can't play here, and instead we're going to have somebody... First off, he doesn't even want to be in San Antonio that bad. And then to have Kawhi, who obviously has a really awful relationship with everybody in San Antonio, for him to have to go to Toronto, which is not necessarily a bad team, but it's not where he wanted to be in any way, shape, or form. Like, what are you supposed to do? Because let's say that the season tanks, yeah? Let's say that we get halfway through and Toronto are sitting in 11th, 12th place. They've won 15, maybe 20 games, you know? At the end of the day, they're going to have to, the organization is going to have to look itself in the eye and be like, okay, so this whole Kawhi thing isn't working out. We have two options because he's on a 1-year contract. He's got 1 year on his contract left. You either trade him before the All-Star break and try to get a draft pick or try to get a veteran, or you just try to get somebody who's got some upside and you send him to a contender, or you have to let him walk away for free in free agency just 1 year after making that trade. And both those options suck.
Right, yeah. Nope, I agree.
I wouldn't be able to do it. Oh, I've seen that news story too. Clint Capella, by the way, back in Houston. Houston looked good. I'm gonna lie.
I would say before we went live, I made the case for Houston being the next Golden State. Now, granted
that's a stretch.
In what I just said, it without context sounds like a stretch, but in my defense, I had thought that they had Serge Ibaka on their team when Carmelo Anthony was coming, plus James Harden, plus Chris Paul. So,
fair,
in that context, I had thought that they had already had 4 relatively, in their prime superstars on their team. So I was like, okay, so that's a pretty awesome team right there. But then I realized that Serge Ibaka in Toronto, where they have now Kawhi Leonard.
And that's the thing. Like, Toronto does look good. We're talking Kyle Lowry. We're talking... I don't even know who you're going to have in the backcourt with Kyle Lowry. But you got Kawhi Leonard on the wing.
Serge Ibaka.
You got Serge Ibaka. And, I don't know who's going to play center. Oh, they got this Valanciunas guy. Oh, and by the way, they picked up Danny Green. Totally forgot that Danny Green came to Toronto in that trade. Like, he's the other guy.
The other guy.
The other guy in the trade. You know, the Raptors don't look bad, but here's the thing. If Kawhi don't actually want to be there, if he winds up looking like Rajon Rondo in Dallas...
Oh, dude.
Like, if he just starts fighting everybody...
Call him out with him.
I mean, hey, no, like, for real though, okay, before anybody, like, crucifies me over that, Rajon Rondo is one of the best point guards. He's one of the most underrated... Okay, I won't say he's one of the best. He's one of the most underrated point guards of his generation. He did help... He was the other side that helped drag that... He helped drag that Celtics team to a couple of NBA finals. He helped get Kevin Garnett. Helped Kevin Garnett get that ring. Like... Rajon Rondo was one of the best defenders of his generation, like all NBA first team. When he applies himself, he can do whatever he wants. When he applies himself, he gets 15 assists a game. Like when he applies himself, he's one of the best point guards in the league. But he just doesn't.
So you don't think Carmelo Anthony? We were talking off air, you didn't think Carmelo Anthony could bring the same amount of game that he had when he was in New York?
So, I don't like Carmelo Anthony's game.
Oh.
Like, Carmelo Anthony is a one-way player. He does not play defense. And let me get on this real quick before I even...
Did you see Carmelo Anthony's op-ed that he wrote about defending himself, saying he had game?
I'm not saying... Look, here's the thing. I'm not saying that the man, doesn't have game. But for his career, yes... Congratulations, 24.1 points. Only 6.5 total rebounds. Only 3 assists. We're talking one of the best players in the game. Okay, this man shoots 35% for field goal or from 3-point range. Mm-hmm. Like his PER is only 20. Yeah, 6-time All-NBA, cool. All-Rookie, scoring champion, 10-time All-Star. Like, I can appreciate what he brings to the table. But if you're asking me if I'm going to build a team, do I want him on it? The answer is no. The answer is a loud and resounding no for me. He's a volume shooter. He's streaky. He doesn't shoot from behind the three-point line that well compared to his peers. Yeah, he's a part of a golden generation. And yeah, at 6'8" and 240, man, he's capable of a lot on the floor. But nah, just personally, I wouldn't put him on my team. Now, I can only talk so much crap. I'm not a professional athlete. You ask me to go guard any of these dudes one-on-one, I'm getting blown over. It's not happening. It's not happening. I can at least admit that I ain't got half the talent for basketball that these guys have. But if I were building a team, no, I'm not picking Carmelo Anthony in any way, shape, or form. I'm not picking Carmelo Anthony.
So do you think the Knicks were bad when he was on the team?
The Knicks were bad because of a lot more than just Carmelo Anthony.
Okay.
The front office, adding Phil Jackson was a good PR move, but he didn't necessarily make the greatest decision to put a team together. Yeah, they had some great draft picks. Jeremy Lin was a fluke.
Yeah.
Like it happened and it was great. No. Let me rewind for just a second. Linsanity was great. It brought a lot of great positive attention to the NBA and to the diversity that the NBA has curated for itself. But Jeremy Lin had a very good run, but he's very much at this point an average player. Like, he's not even starting, I don't even think. Where is Jeremy Lin at this point? No idea. That just says a lot about it. He's an Atlanta Hawk now. He's 29. Let me take a look at these. For the record, smart man, went to Harvard. Career, 12 points. Less than 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists. That's solid. For the
Average?
NBA, for the NBA, that's definitely solid. 12 points, 4.5 assists, shoots 43% from the field. But if you're looking for him to carry your team, it's not happening.
Well, no, I don't think he was carrying a team, but I just think Carmelo Anthony, I feel, and he certainly feels, gets a bad rap because of the team around him. How LeBron James, was able to take Cleveland to multiple championships, basically
By
himself. And people look at Carmelo Anthony and be like, "Oh, well, why couldn't you do that with the Knicks?" And he's
no, but hang on. Have you seen? No. So you remember in 2007, yeah? You remember in 2007 when it was the Cavs and it was the Cavs and the Spurs, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember who was on that team for LeBron James? That's why people look at Carmelo Anthony and say, "Why can't you do this?" Because that team was
Amari Stoudemire. I remember. Oh, Amari Stoudemire.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't on it?
No, not for the Cavs. No.
No, the Knicks. I remember he was with the.
He was.
Carmelo.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Okay, that's a good point.
But check this, okay? This team in 2007 for the playoff roster for the Cavaliers. We're talking LeBron James went to the finals. Yeah. We're talking Anderson Varejao and Zydrunas Ilgauskas were the big men. Ilgauskas was the career professional. Love that guy. Anderson Varejao, big hair guy.
Yeah,
Everybody remembers his hair.
Yep.
After that, you're looking at a bunch of people who really have not accomplished too much in the NBA. Shannon Brown, who we remember being yelled at by Kobe for everything. Boobie Gibson. Yeah. Drew Gooden. Damon Jones. Danielle Marshall, who did set a record. I remember he set a record for making a crap ton of threes. I don't know if it was for a game or for a series or something. Danielle Marshall did go off for a short amount of time. Sasha Pavlovich, who also wound up in Los Angeles and also got crapped on by Kobe regularly. Scott Pollard, who was good at rebounding, not good at anything else. Eric Snow, David Weston. Yeah. So when LeBron James goes to the finals by carrying that kind of team, yeah, people are gonna look at Carmelo and be like, "Look, bro, why can't you score 30 points? take in 10 rebounds, get you about 9, 10 assists. Why can't you go Hulk smash, get dang on near triple double every single game? Why can't you carry your team in the same way? Like Carmelo Anthony is just not built the same way that mentally he's not built the same way that LeBron James is. LeBron James is capable and has proven multiple times that like if stuff hits the fan, he's taking the ball and he's making the good decisions. Carmelo Anthony is going to take the ball, but he's also going to take the shot every single time.
Okay.
And I just think that if we're going to compare the two to each other, LeBron James in every way, shape, or form is a superior player. And to put those kind of pressure on Carmelo is kind of unfair. It's just not the same. It's not the same. But also, like, I understand that people really like Carmelo Anthony. I understand that people really like the way that he plays the game basketball. And I'm not saying he can't play basketball. I'm saying he's not going to carry a team the same way that it's not going to carry a team the same way that LeBron James is capable of carrying a team. It's just not going to happen that way. Especially when this man, for his career, only averages 6.5 assists, or 6.5 rebounds, only averages 3 assists, a single steal, a half of a block, averages about 3 turnovers, and just 24 points. He's just not the same player.
Well, I wasn't saying Carmelo should carry a team. I was saying, like, if he goes to the Rockets, it would make the team better.
No, I definitely agree with it.
Yeah.
I do. No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that front. Adding Carmelo Anthony to a team that's already got, we're looking at James Harden, we're looking at Chris Paul. Dang, I lost that tab where it had their roster sitting up in front of it because I don't remember them all off the top of my head. Use the Rockets roster. There we go. Ooh, did I just...
James Harden, Chris Paul.
I just closed it.
That's okay. Well, we know. They're the Rockets. You know the Rockets. They're the Rockets.
It's the Rockets.
The Rockettes. No, just kidding. Yeah.
No, they do have Eric Gordon, who shout out to Indiana Products. Michael Carter Williams. Yeah, and if they're definitely gonna add Carmelo Anthony to this team, like you're talking about having James Harden. Let's say you put James Harden, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony all out there on the floor together with like Ryan Anderson in the name or Clint Capella, and you just run small. Like that's not a bad team. That team is definitely still gonna get you. Like they can play defense. There's only so much defense you're gonna play with Mike D'Antoni as the coach, but they'll be fine.
Right.
They'll be fine.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's an awful team, but is that a team that is gonna beat LeBron James in a playoff series? Is that a team that's gonna beat the Golden State Warriors in a playoff series? Probably not. I wouldn't bet on it. Even with James Harden and James Harden and Carmelo Anthony on the same team, I wouldn't bet on them beating either one of those teams. I just wouldn't, because that's the standard these days. Is you either have LeBron James or you have to build a team to take out either Golden State or a team that's built around LeBron James, and it's not gonna happen. I like the Rockets.
All right.
Not gonna happen.
Fair enough. I think we just completely ignored the East.
We did. We were gonna talk about here.
So the Celtics, Sixers, and Raptors. Because the Pacers pretty much, I think we can agree, don't really have...
They haven't done too much yet. They've added...
I know they still have Victor Oladipo. Tyreek Evans.
We got Oladipo.
Yep.
Other than that, the roster still looks the same. And I love them to death, but...
Yeah.
To get out of the East...
Cleveland's not going back.
Cleveland's probably going back to winning nothing.
Yeah.
Let's be honest with ourselves.
40 wins, maybe, you think?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't even... Honestly, let's be real with ourselves. Cleveland...
Well, they made it to 38 when they didn't have LeBron.
They still didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I know what I'm saying.
But,
40's not going to make the playoffs either.
The best player on this team is now Kevin Love. Like, they're about to start having to ask George Hill and J.R. Smith to score 50 points between them on a regular basis. If they really want to have a chance. Like, George Hill's going to have to score 20-plus points. J.R. Smith is going to have to score 20-plus points.
Yeah.
They're going to be, like, Kyle Korver is... I love Kyle Korver. He's not the same player. It's not... And his role, like, he's not the guy you want taking every single shot. Cavs,
Well, none of the players were the ones making every single shot except for the one that left. All the players that they got were specifically designed to be there for one player that is no longer there. So now they're like, well,
what do we do? Like you're not like it's like Joakim Noah said. You don't have a bunch of people being like, oh, let's go to Cleveland on vacation. Like, no shade to Cleveland. Like, welcome to the Midwest. We all have something to offer. But when it comes to basketball, we're not exactly the best places for people to want to come to. Like, Indianapolis is still called Naptown for a reason. Well, I don't think it's for a reason, but it's the name that we've garnered for ourselves. Like,
well, yeah, I thought we were talking about Cleveland.
We are.
Oh.
But I mean, like, the Midwest in general is thought of as, like, just a boring place where there's nothing but race cars and corn and strange people. But, like, seriously, I've heard some really weird stories about what people expect from Indiana. Like, I've met people who had no idea that there were actual, like, skyscrapers they didn't know that we had like a downtown area. You know what I mean? Like, they come here expecting to see Indianapolis be the capital of the state, but for it to look like Frankfort, Kentucky, like, which doesn't have a whole lot of tall buildings.
I think Florida has us beat in the number of weird people.
Dude, Florida news is just strange, and they'll report anything.
There's a Twitter feed specifically that just says Florida person.
Why does that not surprise me?
And it just, like, every single tweet is about, it just starts off by saying Florida person accused of such and such or does such and such.
God.
It's hilarious.
It's a strange place, man. Like, weird things are always... It feels like weird things are always happening in Florida. But like I said, like, there's no regulations on what can and can't be reported as news. So they're just like, they'll report anything.
Like, Florida person sets self on fire after realizing shirt doesn't fit the right size. I don't know.
Right. Or like this dude, there was a story about a dude who apparently, like, I don't know if this was Florida or not, but dude, like, drank used oil from McDonald's or something, like frying oil from McDonald's or something like that. And he had a whole reason for it. Like, there was something to it, you know what I mean? But I was just like, why are you drinking used cooking oil in such high quantities? Or the lady who, like, she got pulled over with cocaine in her possession, and she was like, the cocaine flew in through the window.
Through the window, yep.
And I'm just like, I don't think any cop's dumb enough to buy that story, woman. Like, I love you, but what? Who's buying that? Like, where do you live where people come up with that and it's okay? Oh yeah, my drugs just came in through the window. It's fine. You're just kind of like, bruh. Like, People are weird.
So, alright, NBA.
Okay, so
Celtics, 76ers, Raptors. Who's your pick?
Okay, I'm not picking the Raptors. Here's why I'm not picking the Raptors. Kawhi Leonard. Only, like, if Kawhi Leonard decides he wants to play for this team, and he decides he wants to give it the one chance to be like, okay, the East is wide open this year. It could literally be anybody. If he really wants to take that opportunity to be like, okay, this is my chance to play against LeBron or to play against Golden State, whoever comes out of the West this year. If he wants to be like, okay, this is my chance to really get to the finals, and he applies himself to it, then Toronto will make it. But I don't see that happening. This is not his destination. This is not where he wanted to be. He is used to having, and no shade at all to Nick Nurse. No shade at all to Nick Nurse. But he is used to having one of the most elite coaches in basketball history. Like, Greg Popovich is one of the best, one of the greatest of all time when it comes to coaching professional basketball. He's used to that. And he's going to Canada. He's going somewhere he didn't want to be with a bunch of people he didn't want to play basketball with. And he's going to be looking around like, okay, what do I have to do to get out of here? So it could go one way or the other. I'm not nailing. I would not pick the Raptors off top. If I'm going between Celtics and 76ers, I'm picking the Celtics. I'm picking the Celtics because you still have one of the great young coaches in basketball, Brad Stevens, who I like. I really enjoyed watching him at Butler taking Duke
to literally the last shot of the game. Like, that's still one of my favorite national championship games ever. And he's got one of his best players from that era, and Gordon Hayward, back from his leg injury. I think so long that doesn't happen again, and I don't think it will. So long as something like that doesn't happen to him, you're looking at Marcus Smart, Kyrie Irving, Jordan Hayward. You've got Al Horford. You've got Marcus Smart. Oh, I just said Marcus Smart. You got Marquise Morris. This is a team that's ready. And it doesn't necessarily have, like, all of the names, but they also signed Jabari Bird. I don't know who Jabari Bird is, but that's interesting. But here's the thing: like, you look at the way that their roster is set up. You look at the legacy that the Celtics have as a franchise, and you look at Brad Stevens, and you look at Kyrie Irving, and you go, yeah, I could get behind something like that. I think this, like, early pick, Celtics. 76ers, I like Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is huge. He's going to be, like, in 3 years, we're going to be talking about Ben Simmons being the greatest player of his generation, probably. Like, Ben Simmons is, 6'10", plays point guard. Like, the man is capable of doing whatever he wants on the basketball court. You let 76ers actually, like, get built up a little bit more and attract, like, one or two more bigger type names. Nah. Like, it's definitely going to be, between the Celtics and the 76ers in the years to come. And for now, yeah, I pick the Celtics.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try picking my thing. Shoot. Make my pick. I am picking the. I'm thinking. Because I was going to pick the Celtics. But now. Well,
the Celtics are good.
The Celtics are good. But I really want to pick the 76ers. Because Joel Embiid was, like, on fire last season.
True.
And I really cannot go against that, like, raw talent he has. And Ben Simmons had Rookie of the Year talent. Like, not even fronting. And I just can't really say it. It's not even fronting. And they just showed it. Like, and when Joel Embiid came back from the injury, with the Black Mamba mask, that was awesome. And just did not slow down a beat against the Cavaliers in the game they won. 2 games they won, right?
Right.
2 games.
So.
Yeah, they won 2 games, which showed that they could match up with them in some cases. So when they were playing against a powerhouse team, or at least a powerhouse opponent like LeBron, they had the ability to do so. And it's just the defense that needed some work. But I think with the coaching and the training done this offseason, I think they'll get over that hump and they'll be able to win the East.
Yeah, they lost in the conference semifinals to the Celtics. They beat the Heat in the first round 4-1, and Ben Simmons was Rookie of the Year. So.
Oh, okay. So, never mind.
No, they did make it to the playoffs last year, though.
Yeah, they did make the play. I just thought they played the Cavs.
Oh, no, they didn't make it to the
Never
Cavs.
mind.
The Celtics got the Cavs, I believe.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but they had played the Cavs in the year, or during the year.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I picked the 76ers. All right, so these predictions are coming in hot and ready, just like Little Caesar's Pizza.
Oh, my God.
So, next time you're feeling ready for a pizza,
Oh, my God. Don't do this.
make sure
We are not sponsored. Please
It's-
pay us.
any pizza other than Papa John's.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going with that.
eating of Papa John, so long that man is a shareholder, so long that man is still making money off of that company.
That man is Papa Gone.
You're the worst.
He's the worst.
That was almost a spit take. I will not be eating a Papa John's. So here's the thing, man. Don't let your white friends use the N-word. And don't let anybody that's non-black use the N-word. But also, how ridiculous does it sound when you say, I was pressured to use a racial slur in a purely business setting? How foolish are you, seriously, as a person, to be like, yes, I may be prejudiced, racist, this way, that way, whatever. But for you to say I'm pressured to use a racial slur in a business setting, these people were probably looking at him when he was going off like, okay, looks like we're going this route today. Somebody's feeling a little angry, but like, dude.
I saw a tweet somebody had said that quoted that, and it just said, like, quote, kidnapper. It's like holding a gun to his wife's head or something, like, say the N-word or I'll shoot. And said Papa John, like, don't do it. All right. And it says N-word.
Oh my God. Like, okay, you know what? Here, I'll give you that one. If somebody puts a gun to your head and says, if you don't say it 5 times in a row, you're going to die. Look, go on and say whatever racial slur that they have asked you to say. But if your life don't depend on it, and 99 times out of 100, it don't, man, y'all need to just leave it alone. Like, be grown and just be like, it's cool if you feel a certain way about who or whatever, but know that there are times and places where you can expose that part of yourself these days. Not that you should ever have really been comfortable being a bigot in public in the first place, but yeah. Moving on from our non-sponsorship with places that aren't named Papa John's.
The NFL, speaking of which.
More controversy.
Controversial.
Dive into it. What we got?
The anthem has ongoing controversy, believe it or not.
It's ridiculous.
The Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones came out in a press conference about a week ago, actually a little bit longer than that, but he was saying that his players would stand for the anthem in line or they would be punished by him and his team.
Because, we don't have the First Amendment right to protest our country as we see fit when we don't agree with it.
Yeah. Regardless of whether or not there was a new anthem rule in place by the NFL itself, he personally would institute a rule with his team. And quarterback Dak Prescott and halfback Ezekiel Elliott apparently got that message loud and clear, or they just owned up to it regardless and said that, hey, this is America's team, we're going to do it regardless. And a bunch of other players got a little bit more upset about that and said, Michael Bennett was quoted in saying, well, they're going to have to stand and man up on their own as their own players and do whatever they're going to do. And Malcolm Jenkins called Jerry Jones a bully and said that his owner, the Eagles owner, Jeffrey Lurie, wouldn't do that to his players and basically called them out on that.
Call him a bully.
Yeah, he called him a bully, said that he wasn't allowing his players to do stuff that he was allowed to do on his field. And now that I'm saying these words out loud, they sound very strange. And very, how do I say it?
Go for it.
Racially tinged. I said, Malcolm Jenkins said his owner was allowing him to do something on his field that the other owner wasn't allowing his players to do
In their feet?
in their... Oh.
When you take it there. But as a reminder of like part of the reason why Michael Bennett feels this way today is people will remember that Michael Bennett was taken out by the police in Las Vegas at I think it was 2017. It's almost a year ago at this point. But like let's not forget that like all these different things are going on in this country. We're having all of these different discussions about what it means to be behind the wheel and black in America, and like people don't understand that like having status or having money or having any and all these things is not going to make a difference when people are prejudiced against you. Michael Bennett is a recognizable and more than just a okay football player in America. And I mean, this dude was wrestled out of his car, I think is how the story went. Like, excessively, they used excessive force. I remember at one point they had him on the ground, guns out, drawn, talking about don't move or we'll blow your brains out. Like, very graphic, very scary. And again, like, it's not even about, really at the end of the day, like, when things like this are happening, it's not about race. It's not about the statistic where people always want to come up to me and they're like, hey, this happens to white people as much as it happens to persons of color. No, I understand that part. The issue is that this is happening to people in America. The issue is that no matter who you are or what you look like, somebody in a position of power feels the need to drag you out of your car, to put the guns loaded and cocked and ready to use guns in your face. And even if you're doing nothing illegal at all, to have the fear of you possibly losing your life, particularly when you've done nothing wrong, that's terrifying. That is something that just should not happen to people, not just in America, but worldwide. But this should not happen to people. And so that's really where like a lot of these things are coming from. It's like, hey, why can't we treat people the same way no matter who they are, no matter where they come from, no matter where you get pulled over in America? Why can't we just all be given the same chance to be like, okay, you did something wrong. Here's your ticket. We have probable cause. We're searching your car. Like, it's cool if you go through the whole process and you have actual reasons to do these types of things. But I've had my car searched simply because I'm driving through the wrong part of this. I'm driving through a upper crust part of this town. Like, I've been pulled over and intimidated simply because I've been in the back seat of a car in an area where white people are not common. I've literally had a cop pull me over, look my friends in the eye and be like, y'all don't fit the description of this neighborhood. What are y'all doing here? Why is this person in the back seat? They insinuated that I had either A, jumped in this car and was forcing them to take it to some sort of chop shop or something like that, or B, that I was selling them drugs and that they were here just to like see me for 5 minutes so they could go do whatever it was that they were doing. And I'm like, yo, this is how it's really going down? This is the perception that they have of me simply because my friends don't live in the hood? Go ahead and just put it out there. Like, I live in the poor side of town. Like, just, it is what it is. And like, I live in a place where there's health crises going on. And I live in a place where you got to drive 15, 20 minutes just to get to a grocery store. Like, it's really, really bad. Honestly, like, just the level, like, people always talk about the level of, what am I talking about? The cost of living. Or not the cost of living, but, like, where am I going with this? Not cost of living, but, like, what people expect you to have to live in the first place. So, like, maybe I am talking about cost of living. Just, like, what the basics are for everybody to get by. You know what I mean? Yeah. I live in a place where most of us don't actually have the necessities. Like, let's be real with it. And, like, for them to tax us the way that we do, like, we already don't have everything in the first place. And then for them to actively attempt to take away the things that we do have, like,
It's ridiculous. And so I understand why Jerry Jones feels the way he feels. Like, it's about patriotism. It's about nationalism. It's about being putting on a show of solidarity for the people of this country. I get that. I understand that. But when you look at these issues, this is bigger than the sport itself. This is bigger than your franchise or your paycheck or anything like that. This is about the diverse group of guys that you have standing on that field and how one or a few of them are going to be seen differently than the rest of their teammates simply because of their skin color. And like I said, it's not going to have anything to do with how much money they make or anything like that. Like, if this is happening to NFL players, if LeBron James is able to hold a press conference and be like, yo, I'm scared for my son to leave the house just because, even though his son has his name, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you got to look at all the other different factors that can change. What's the one thing that doesn't? It's race. It's the fact that just because we're darker, we're seen as dirty, or we're seen as evil, or we're seen as not capable of thinking for ourselves, which is just ridiculous. Yeah, going off on a little tangent here, but to wrap it up, just like, I get why people feel a certain way about the national anthem. I get why people feel a certain way about putting on a show and being like, for our country, we need to show solidarity. I get it. But when you look at it from the other perspective, and you have to look at it from the opposite side and say, look, there are certain situations that I consistently get into on a regular basis where I don't feel like this country represents me the way it represents the people around me. And when you feel that way about it, no, you're not going to want to stand in solidarity with your hand over your heart and just belt out the tune of the national anthem with as much gusto as you possibly can, because it's like, look, yeah, I live here, and yeah, I love this place, but also this place in some ways is actively trying to kill me rather than help me become a better person. So no, I don't feel the same way the rest of my teammates do about the national anthem. And when you see it from that perspective, you're like, okay, let's make some changes. Let's do some things to make other people in this country more comfortable. Let's make changes so that people don't have to leave their houses and feel fear. Let's make different changes so that when they step out on this football field, they're like, yes, I'm putting on a show for everybody. And it's just about the game. We don't have to bring the outside world into a realm of entertainment. Like, let's just say, okay, we're here to play the game. What's going on outside of here is okay. I feel represented. I feel listened to. When we get to that point, when we get to that point, we'll stop talking about the NFL. When we get to that point, we'll stop talking about the national anthem. When we get to that point, we'll stop talking about protests and the military industrial complex. We'll stop talking about jets and spending money on defense versus whatever else we should be spending money on. Like, we'll stop having that conversation. But the issue is that people don't want to have the deep conversations, and they want to say, just because you won't listen to the national anthem, you're disrespecting this country. No. First Amendment says, I have the right to disagree with my country, and I have the right to tell people that I disagree with my country. It's a James Baldwin quote I've got around here somewhere. He's like, I love America, and I love it because it gives me the right to criticize.
Oh, because country. I love it.
Because I love it. I have
the right to criticize.
Exactly. And like, when I heard that, I heard that when I was a little bit younger, and I was like, man, that sounds amazing. And now that I'm where I am in life, I'm like, yo, man, he's like definitely like he's one of my absolute favorite intellectuals of all time. James Baldwin is an absolute genius in the way that he was able to articulate how he felt. Just absolutely wonderful. Representation is important, and I know a lot of black kids feel like they're just represented by athletes or entertainers or things like that. Man, if you pick up a book, you gonna pick up every last attractive person in the area. You go stand in a park by yourself for 10 minutes. Go read a book. Watch everybody come up to you and be like, "Yo, what are you reading? That's amazing. That's awesome." It's like carrying around a puppy or a baby. Like, if you carrying a book in a public place, people are like, "Okay,
that person got something going on. Like, it's amazing. I love this country. I say that, like, people, like, might feel a certain way, but I do love this country. And I do love I love the fact that I'm allowed to call it out, and I'm allowed to say I don't agree with this, and I'm allowed to create this platform for ourselves. We can create this platform for ourselves where we're like, okay, this is how we feel about it, and this is what needs to change. And we can speak for ourselves. We can speak for certain people who agree with us, and anybody who disagrees with us, you also have a platform, and you're also allowed to disagree with us. You're also allowed to say how you feel with us, and you should do that. You should do that because we post these on YouTube, because we are Real Indoorfins on Twitter, we are the Indoorfins Podcast 317 on Instagram, and we are the Indoorfins Podcast Indianapolis on Facebook. Like, you can find us.
Like, subscribe, comment really helps us out.
Exactly. Every bit of interaction is important, whether you agree with us or not. Like, you can downvote the video, leave a comment, tell me why you disagree with us. If you subscribe, you will have the opportunity to have that conversation with us every single week. You engage us on social media, you will be given the opportunity to engage with us and have a conversation, right, and open up that dialogue every single week. Like, that's what's beautiful about living in America in 2018. Like, you can create a platform where you can not just say, I agree, disagree. You can say exactly why, and we can have a debate. We can have a discussion, and we'll be miles apart. Like, this is the modern age. Like, welcome to America. Yeah, it's crazy and it's messed up what's happening to people at certain times, and it's really strange that we have to argue with grown men about whether or not we're allowed to protest the national anthem. I think that's a ridiculous argument, but we all have this platform, and we can all say what we want and say how we feel. And so long you don't, like, just insult me, if you actually, like, have a concern, have a question, would like to have a conversation, sign me up. I'll be there.
Wow. That was intense.
Thank you. That happens. This is what really happens in my mind all the time. And it's funny because Ethan is always just over here like, man, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I have thoughts like this all the time. I really do. So, I have no segue for that. So
no, yeah. So, the NFL. So, news? Injuries, and people coming back from injuries. So, Andrew Luck, obviously,
is still going to lead the Colts to maybe 5 wins this year.
Hey, it could be 6.
I'm sorry, but I've lost. After, we were spoiled with Peyton Manning, y'all. We were spoiled. We had Peyton Manning. We had Reggie Wayne. We had a rotating cast on running back, but we always had Dwight Freeney. Once we signed Robert Mathis, Bob Sanders gave us one good year. We always had decent guys line up on the other side of the ball, but like
Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday. Oh man, how could I forget Jeff Saturday? Wow, for the record, I met Jeff Saturday. He's a wonderful human being. He
seems like just a down to earth.
He
was. He was an electrician before he got started.
He's a regular person. He's just he's a big teddy bear. So he's a big teddy bear. I remember I met him at summer camp, and I met him at Happy Hollow Children's Camp, and like they prepared this huge plate of chicken wings just for him. Like we made wings for everybody. But I mean, this dude down like the entire plate.
That's hilarious.
Big smile on his face. Yep. Signed everything. Took pictures. Said hello. It was wonderful to the staff. He was wonderful to the children. He was just honestly an amazing person. And it was an honor to meet the.
I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame.
I think he should be a Hall of Famer. I think for the consistent level of production that he provided to Peyton Manning, who's also obviously going to be a Hall of Famer. Yeah. Him, Tariq Glenn. There's a couple other names that we're probably leaving off the offensive line, but Jeff Saturday in particular is definitely worthy of a Hall of Fame induction. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy.
Who was I going to say? So Andrew Luck. Coming back, Carson Wentz. So, who do you think is gonna more likely to be starting week 1 of the preseason? Or do the starting quarterbacks start week 1 of the preseason?
They usually
play.
I know they play. Okay, so they do play at least one series, right? Okay.
Yeah, they usually play one series
Okay.
or a couple of different series.
So, do you think Andrew Luck and Carson Wentz will both be ready, or do you think one or the other will be ready?
If we're talking preseason,
Yeah.
I think Andrew Luck is probably more on course to be ready than Carson Wentz.
Really?
I think if we're talking by the time September rolls around and the season is up and running, Carson Wentz, they say they're not going to put him on the physically unable to perform list. So that makes it sound like he's going to be ready to go, honestly, before week 8. And I think that's like the cutoff is for that list. He's got to be taken off of it.
Well, then,
But,
if he's not on the list, then he should be ready
but if
to
he's
play.
not going to be put on that list, I think by the time the season starts, they'll both be ready to go. But if we're talking preseason, Andrew Luck probably looks better than Carson Wentz. But I'm not betting against either one of them. But
Do you think if Carson Wentz struggles at all in the first game back, will there be any calls for Nick Foles to start?
Nick Foles is still there, yeah?
Yeah, he's the backup still.
Okay. I think if you give Carson Wentz the first month. This is ridiculous because it's the NFL and you only get 16 games and
Right, yeah.
Honestly, if you go 0-4, like you're screwed. You go 1-3, you're obviously gonna have some problems because you can only lose maybe 1 or 2 more games the rest of the season to give yourself a chance.
And there have been the Chargers from 2009 or so lost their first 3 or 4 games and then won 11 straight.
I remember that.
So
But they
made the playoffs.
Who was it? Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers, arrogant. That's an arrogant dude, but I tell you what, that dude can ball.
Yeah. Very arrogant for someone who's never gotten past that AFC Championship.
Yeah, I was about to say, for somebody who's never even played in the Super Bowl like that. But I mean, he's also
one of the best quarterbacks.
He's pretty rich.
Yeah,
he's pretty rich. Hey, Phillip Rivers, if you got $20, I need about 350 of them 20s. Nah, but I think if Nick Foles, if Carson Wentz doesn't do well in the first 2 games, the fans obviously Philadelphia is brutal. Those fans are gonna be like, bro, we need Nick Foles back. He won the Super Bowl with us. Like that's all Philly fans ever wanted.
Do you remember this nickname?
Who?
Nick Foles.
No, actually I don't.
Big Dick Nick.
Oh. Lord. Oh Lord. Oh, why did I ask? Why did I even
Philadelphia.
Oh man,
they had people turning over light poles. They had people.
That happens every time somebody wins.
They had somebody in the street literally eating horse manure.
Woo.
Yeah.
Woo.
That was
Yeah, let's not.
Anyway,
Ugh.
so that's the injury news.
Why would you do that?
Because
why would you eat horse? Anyway, all right, moving on.
It was their first time.
No, I'm just getting out of there. Nope. Moving on from that, I want to talk about my favorite baseball team.
Okay.
For anybody who doesn't know who my favorite baseball team is, they play in Chicago.
Go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go! Hey Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna lose today. No, I'm just kidding.
Get out. Nah, in a very strange twist of fate. So, the Chicago Cubs went nearly 50 years without being no hit right? The person who no hit the Cubs on that date was September 9th, 1965, was a man named Sandy Koufax. The next man to no hit the Cubs was Cole Hamels, 2015, who played for the Philadelphia Phillies at the time. The Cubs made a trade this week to bring Cole Hamels from the Texas Rangers for 2 minor league pitchers and a player to be named later. The players from our farm system that the Texans acquired were right-handed pitcher Eddie Butler and Raleigh Lacy. Lacy is 23, big upside. Was currently playing for the High A team. And Eddie Butler, I think, had appeared for the Cubs and was starting in the AAA Iowa affiliate that we had.
this is a big move because they just needed more. They needed more strength in the rotation. So Tyler Chatwood has made the move to the bullpen. Tyler Chatwood's made the move to the bullpen. Cole Hamels is going to be the 5th starter at this particular point. Cole Hamels, man, I was reading about him. He was the MVP of the World Series in 2008. I can't remember what else he's done. He's a four-time All-Star. Obviously won the 2008 World Series with those Philadelphia Phillies. World Series MVP, Championship Series MVP. This man, over the length of his career, has 152 wins, a 3.43 ERA, which ballooned a little bit in the American League. I think he'll be fine coming back to the National League, which historically has not been strong hitting wise as the American League. This man is 7th in active players with strikeouts with 2,341 in 13 years. He is the next left-hander on the list behind CC Sabathia. Clayton Kershaw is close to him and has played for 2 less years, but for the sake of this argument, yes, he is 7th. Clayton Kershaw is 8th. The only other left-hander on that list is one John Lester.
I just wanted to point out one thing before you get all carried away in the Hamels. What's it called? The Hamel Mania?
Hamel hype.
Hamel.
He was playing for the worst team in baseball.
He posted
not
an
the worst
11.12 ERA in the month of July.
Again, A, American League. B, this is a team with no confidence in the Texas Rangers. Like, they're not doing very well. They're near the bottom of the entire league. It's just going to be a scenery change, and it's going to be something to help get him out of his funk, because clearly he's capable of performing at a very high level.
I would also like to point out that during that same time span, Bartolo Colon managed to have a 7 ERA. Whew. Which, while not good, was still 4 points lower than Cole Hamels. Bartolo Colon
ain't up for trade.
45-year-old Big Sexy had 4 points lower ERA than Mr. Cole Hamels over here.
For the record.
And he pitched a 7-inning, 1 ERA game during that time.
That's fair.
So
Bartolo Colon, for the record, is 3rd on the active strikeout list, behind Verlander and the number 1 guy on there, CC Sabathia. I keep forgetting Bartolo Colon is 45.
Yep.
That man has been playing this game for 21 years. Can we have a personal round of applause for Bartolo
big
Colon?
Sexy.
Like, Big Sexy out here doing big things. Oh yeah, by the way, he hit that home run, right?
Yep. I think that was when he was still in New York.
Probably.
Yep, that was 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. He does have one career.
Yep, one career home run.
But here's another thing about the Cubs that I really like is they've had a 3.27 ERA as a unit as a unit for their bullpen, and this was as of yesterday, July 28th, for a publishing date. That stat. And Tyler Chatwood is did I just say a chap? It's Chatwood. Sorry, Mr. Tyler Chatwood.
Oh.
It's probably going to be just fine. Although, however, I am aware that we're not doing too well against St. Louis right now. Quintana threw 51 pitches and watched the Cardinals get 6 runs off of him in 1 inning. It's not fun. But I tell you what, they're still on top of the division right now.
By a half game.
But here's the thing. You got to win the games, and you got to be on top at any given moment. We do play the Cardinals again tonight. Joe Madden is still in charge, and I still have all the faith in the world in the mad genius that is. It's going to be just fine. I think the Cubs are going to be just fine. I think that, like I said, I think this move is to get leadership. I think this move is to get experience. I think this move is to make sure once the actual playoff series start, whether it's a 1-game, like I wouldn't pick Cole Hamels to
pitch in that one game if we were to drop to a wild card and wind up there. But also, a very interesting note is that Cole Hamels grew up rooting for the Chicago Cubs and was good friends with one Mark Pryor, former pitcher. So it's very interesting to see his whole career coming full circle in multiple ways by playing for the Chicago Cubs. And I'm excited to see what happens. Next. So gonna have a lot of fun. Cole Hamels, welcome to the friendly confines. And that's all I got on that one. Thank you, Cole Hamels.
Well, I was just decided to look up the National League stats for all the teams, the top 5 stats for all the teams.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that Cincinnati would be on top because they have number 3 in the NL batting average is Scooter Gennett.
Yeah,
is
but if
number
he's
3.
the only one getting on base on a regular basis.
Well, nobody in the Chicago Cubs is top 5.
But they are 33-19 at home.
It's true.
Which isn't I don't even think that's the best home record.
Number 5 is Eugenio Suarez with 24 home runs for Cincinnati in the NL. NL runs batted in, number 1 in the NL. Eugenio Suarez with 80. Somehow.
He's the only person.
Yeah, well, Javier Baez is the only one for the Cubs there at 77. So, and then you got, that's it. So, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting that Cincinnati had multiple players in the top 5 stats, and yet they're on the bottom of the leaderboard.
Man, it just happens. It really just happens.
I don't know. It's just random because San Francisco's nowhere on there. The Mets do have a player. Miami's not on there. Who else? Atlanta is fairly well represented. Freddie Freeman, obviously. Nick Markakis.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee's represented well.
Mm. Like I said, like the National League Central is still to this day probably one of the strongest divisions in baseball right now. I wouldn't say forever, obviously, with the Cubs having a lot of 100-game losses in their seasons, but in our history. But you were just talking about like how everybody's managing to like how the Cubs are managing to be on top, even though they don't have anybody in those like categories leading anything. Javier Baez has 21 home runs and 77 RBIs. Anthony Rizzo has 14 home runs, but he's got 68 RBI. And then you have a lot of people in here with between 30 and 45. Kyle Schwarber, 19 home runs, 46 RBIs. Hap's got 30 RBIs. Chris Bryant's got 44. Contreras has 37. Hayward's got 44. Zobrist is 39. Like it's just overall production from the Cubs that's getting them through right now. Like everybody's solid. Everybody's playing well. Nobody's playing great, but everybody's playing well. Oh, look at that. John Lester has 7 RBI.
Yeah. Like as for the American League, you could tell like who was on top fairly easily. Like American League batting average, Mookie Betts, Boston, JD Martinez, Boston, AL home runs, JD Martinez, Boston, runs batted in, Boston, and then wins, Boston's number 3, AL earned run, Boston. Saves Boston. They're fairly well represented.
Boston's looking pretty good this year. Yeah.
Boston.
We got our clam chowder and we got our
clam chowder.
Red Sox. Yo. That's the worst Boston accent you're ever going to hear. I
we
apologize
got
to everybody.
over here.
I apologize to everybody in the Boston area except for Patriots fans.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just can't rock with Patriots fans. I never have and I never will. Like, y'all crushed my dreams so many times.
Go Giants! Eli Manning, let's go.
Ooh, Michael Strahan taking him out.
David Tyree.
That was a great game.
That was a great game.
Says, that was a great game.
That was a great catch.
Great game in baseball. That was a great game in football history. Sorry, I'm still looking at like
sports ball.
That sports ball. He threw that touchdown in that goalpost. Yeah. He hit that home run right down the field already.
Yogi Bear, hey boo boo.
Hey boo boo.
Wanna get that picnic basket?
I wanted to hit the ball in the picnic basket. ask it, but it's not happening.
Yogi, why are you doing that?
Oh my god. I'm still mad at you for really being great at that one.
Yogi, we have to go and get the picnic basket back to the campers.
Oh my
Hey, boo boo, I don't have to do anything you're telling me to do. I'm a Yogi Bear.
So an interesting thing about no hitter. Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to read this because like I'm pretty like I want to like, yeah. It looks like it's been a it looks like it's a verified source. So I'm gonna read this, and if it didn't happen this way, then like we'll talk about this another day. But on May 2nd, 1917. The Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds reached the end of 9 innings in a hitless, scoreless tie. The only time in baseball history that neither team has had so much as a hit in regulation. The pitchers were Hippo Vaughn for the Cubs and Fred Toney for the Reds. Both pitched in the 10th inning.
Hey, Fred Toney.
Vaughn gave up 2 hits and the Reds scored the winning run. Toney, on the other side, recorded a 10-inning no-hitter. Vaughn is no longer credited with a no-hitter under the current rules since he lost it after the 9th inning. But I just wanted to mention the fact that...
Dude's name is Hippo.
Yeah. I realize it's probably a nickname. Yo, names in baseball in...
the 1900s.
were very, very interesting. There was a Grover Cleveland... Gosh, he played for the Cubs.
Babe Ruth, obviously.
Grover Cleveland Alexander, I think. Yeah.
That's
there it is.
hilarious.
His name was Grover Cleveland Alexander. They called him Old Pete, and he played for the Phillies.
What?
Yeah, I know, right?
There's my friend Grover Cleveland Alexander. We call him Old Pete. Why do you call him that? Well, it's a funny story.
Lord knows. He is in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Was inducted in 1938.
Old Pete.
They did used to call him Alexander the Great for obvious reasons.
Okay, that makes more sense. But Old Pete, what the
it's-
hell? This is called. There's my friend.
Jeez, even they say that they're not really sure where Old Pete came from, but it's
There's my
something that's
friend
attributed
David
to.
Fritzenbergenstein, or as I like to call him, the Big Mess. What? Where'd you get that?
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's a funny story.
For the record, he was Hippo Vaughn's actual name was James Leslie Vaughn.
Okay.
Born in Weatherford, Texas, passed away at the age of 78 in Chicago, Illinois. Apparently threw with both hands. What?
Like this, or like ambidextrous?
I'm assuming that made him ambidextrous. That is.
I've seen pitchers nowadays can do that. But
Isn't there a guy that's playing now and like the deal is like he
it's
has
a switch pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the deal is like you have to pitch from one arm
Yeah.
for the entire at bat.
Yeah,
And
but you can switch before they get set.
Okay. Dude, who makes that glove? Who makes that man's glove?
So I figured, I think we're just about out of time.
Yeah, we are. I do want to set a little preview. Look, for everybody like wondering like why I haven't talked about football, European football for the past few weeks.
Oh yeah.
I don't care about preseason.
Oh.
I don't. No. Okay, so why I don't care about preseason, right? So
talking about
one year I watched the
practice,
Oakland Raiders go 4-0 in the preseason, yeah? And everybody was like, dude, the Raiders are going to win. They're going to do the whole thing. They're running the table.
I remember that.
They went like 2-14 throughout the regular season. Like, I think that was the record for the regular season was 2-14. After beating everybody in the preseason, they won 2 games all year.
That was the Colts too, I believe.
The Colts. The Colts did not win a single preseason game that year that they won the Super Bowl. I remember that.
They went 4-0 in the preseason the year they went 2-14.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, preseason is never really a great indicator of anything that you are or are not going to be capable of during the actual season. So, when it comes to league football, I haven't said a word. I actually haven't watched too many highlights, even though the ICC is happening here in America. I haven't really watched too much of it. But for the preview, the first day of the Premier League in England is going to be, oh gosh, I forgot the date and now I can't find it. It's August 11th. It's going to be August 11th.
Arsenal, new look Arsenal with their new manager Unai Emery, the new signing Lucas Torreira. Arsenal look good, but they're gonna have to take on the Centennials, the team that won it all last year. My favorite, obviously, Manchester City.
Now, is that the coach you talked about in one of our previous episodes?
Unai Emery or Arsene Wenger?
The one who took over Arsenal.
Yeah, Unai Emery is the one who's taken over Arsenal.
Is he the one from the
Paris.
Paris? Okay.
Yes. What were you gonna say?
Germany. I don't know why.
Germany. Gosh, who am I thinking? Who switched from Germany? No, you're thinking of Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, that's what.
He's been at Liverpool for a couple years now, but he did come from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
No, you're good. But the first day, oh man, the opening day looked great. New boys, Cardiff City are going to be taking on Bournemouth. Watford versus Brighton. Southampton, Burnley, Huddersfield are going to be playing a very strange-looking Chelsea team. Fulham, new boys, going to be taking on Crystal Palace. Gosh, we're already having London versus London. I'm going to love it. Wolverhampton's first game is going to be against Everton, and Everton look really good this year too. I'm excited to see Liverpool taking on West Ham and Newcastle taking on Tottenham Hotspur. And last, and unfortunately for me, one of these teams is least, Leicester City will be taking on the dreaded Manchester United. Who gives a crap?
Very good assessment.
Look, man. Jose Mourinho just came out in a press conference and was like, Paul Pogba better understand that he said just because Paul Pogba won a world, he needs to understand why he won the World Cup and what he needs to do to be successful at Manchester United. I'm like, oh, okay, Jose. So your players clearly don't like you, clearly not in all cases respect you, and you want to call them out and be like, look, just because you were successful somewhere else doesn't mean that you're going to be successful with me. Dude, if I was Paul Pogba, I'd pay my own transfer fee. I'd literally pay my own transfer fee to go somewhere else.
Just because you won the biggest prize in soccer in the entire world doesn't mean you can be successful in our club.
Exactly. And I'm just like, dude, this is one of the biggest clubs in the world. This is you have one of the most marketable players in the world in Paul Pogba. And you're telling him that he can't necessarily be successful? Dude, start Paul Pogba every single game and set him free. Just be like, dude, roam up and down the pitch, do whatever the heck you want, pop up wherever you need to be, and Paul Pogba seriously will prove to everybody in this world that he's one of the most dynamic midfielders in the world. But Jose Mourinho doesn't want to let him do that. Jose Mourinho won't let him do that, and Manchester United limped into second place. It's not going to happen this year. I'm already willing to put my predictions for the Premier League on the record, okay? Look, I'm going to go here, and as a fan, I will pick Manchester City to repeat. I will pick Manchester City to repeat, but here's the thing. Liverpool are going to be like a point behind, okay? Liverpool is going to push Manchester City to the limit. Third place, I'm going to go with Tottenham. So, City, Liverpool, Tottenham. So that leaves Manchester United. That leaves Chelsea. And that leaves Arsenal to figure out what's going on with the top six. My strange pick of the year isn't really going to be that strange of a pick, but don't be surprised to see Burnley fall down because they're going to I think if they beat Aberdeen in this week's qualifier for the Europa League, I think that Burnley can really make a push in the Europa League. But don't be surprised when Wolves finish top half as high as 6th or 7th. Like, Wolverhampton Wanderers are a great team. They've made some amazing transfers. This is a team that's got the money to pay for top talent, and all they have to do is survive 2 years in the Premier League, and there'll be a spot where we're talking about big money, 50, 60 million euro transfers, talking about going to Wolverhampton rather than Chelsea, rather than Arsenal, rather than Liverpool, Manchester. Like, those guys really have the opportunity to create a 7th big team in a 7th huge team in England. And for the first trophy coming up in England next Sunday, I don't know if I'll actually be able to watch it, but Chelsea versus Manchester City, the FA Cup champions versus the league champions next Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sure it's sometime in the afternoon in England. Probably going to be happening in London at Wembley. It's going to be a lot of fun.
and I don't care that fans don't necessarily like it. I think that it counts as a game. It counts as a champion versus champion game, and it's always fun to watch. And it's going to be fun to see who starts. Riyad Mahrez, I've seen, has an ankle injury. I feel like he really is just going to be a glorified backup. Riyad Mahrez is obviously a dynamic player and is obviously one of the better wingers in the league. 2 years ago, he was a big part of the reason why Leicester City even were in the running for that championship, let alone the fact that they won it, which it's just never going to happen that way ever again. Like, sure, it's going to happen. Sure, there will be a team that's outside the Big Six that will win. It'll never happen the way that Leicester did it. It will never happen the way that Leicester did it ever again. I like Riyad Mahrez. I like him a lot. He's a great dynamic player. Gets in his crosses, pacey. Can dribble past any and everybody on his day. It's a shame that he went down with an injury. And we'll see what happens. But we still got Sane. We still got Sterling. We got Diaz. We got Phil Foden. Like, it's gonna be fine.
All right.
And that's World Football.
Well, that was a great analysis by Tuesday.
Yay!
So, just some late updates. Seattle is winning by 8-0 right now. The Mariners against the Angels.
Dang.
In the bottom of the fifth. New York, the Yankees beat the Royals 6-3. The Red Sox beat the Twins 3-0. The Braves beat the Dodgers 4-1, and the Rangers beat the Astros 4-3. Wow. So, if the scores hold, the Mariners could jump one more game closer to the Astros in the AL West. So it might make it a little more interesting, coming closer to the end of the regular season. And the Cubs play the Cardinals tonight at 8 p.m. on ESPN.
The Astros swept that series.
Oh, the Rangers?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be darned.
The Rangers swept the Astros.
Huh.
Mike Minor got eight strikeouts today.
Well, how do you like them apples, Jose Altuve? No,
He probably likes them the same way he likes his trophy, considering the fact that he's got one.
yeah, well, he's... Alright, whatever. Don't really have a comeback for that.
I don't have one for that. So, anyway, before we log off, please do not forget, we are on Twitter at Real Indoorfins. We are on Facebook. We are the Indoorfins Podcast.
317.
On Instagram. No, Instagram we're 317. On YouTube we're Indianapolis. Right? Gosh, I'm sorry. Okay, so we had to make sure that,
Indoorfins Podcast Indianapolis.
Yeah, we had to make sure that we didn't, overstep on anybody else who may or may not have been looking for this name. So, yes, on YouTube, we are the Indoorfins Podcast Indianapolis. You know that because you're listening to this on YouTube. And you can be connected to all of our different social media from our channel here on YouTube, which will be Facebook, where you can find us as the Indoorfins Podcast 317. You can find us on Twitter at Real Indoorfins, and on Instagram we are the Indoorfins Podcast 317. For everybody who's curious, no, we are not spelled like the hormone. We are indoor, as in use your indoor voice, and fins, like, man, check out the dorsal fin on that shark. We are the Indoorfins Podcast. That is Ethan.
That is Tuesday, and this is Big Sexy.
First hit of the year. He drives one. Deep left field. That goes Upton. Back near the wall. It's out of here. Bartolo has done it.
Big Sexy.
The impossible has happened.
Smashes it.
The impossible.
The slowest home run trot of all time.
His first career home run. And there will be nobody in the dugout to greet him.
Of course. Oh, that's
This
great.
is one of the great moments
I
in
love
the
that.
history of baseball. Bartolo has gone deep.
I love baseball. I love how they troll each other. I love how he's walking back to the dugout and then all of his
Nobody's
teammates have
there.
disappeared. They've all disappeared.
There they go.
The tunnel and give him his just due. His 226th
Whoa.
contact in just the right way.
That's actually pretty great.
enough to do it. And now Bartolo
That connection
has
sounded
brought
beautiful.
down
That's one
Thomas.
thing I love about baseball is when you hear somebody just crack the crap out of that ball and you just hear, and you're
That
like,
was
yep,
amazing.
it's gone. You knew as soon as he connected, you're like, that's a home run. So, you know where to find us on social media. You know how we feel about Bartolo Colon. You also know how I feel about Manchester United. Have a good evening, guys. We'll see you next week.
See ya.